Hey folks, Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. This is another unpopular wrestling opinion show. Basically, it's going to be an endless amount of these. I could end up doing 50, I could end up doing 100. Because we all have different opinions. I've enjoyed the ones I've done so far, and this one is going to be, at the risk of pissing people off, including people that I talk to, like, pretty regularly, people that are, may not share my views, and everything. Jim Cornette. I like Jim Cornette. I have sang his praises before. I'm not saying I agree with everything the guy said, but he's always been somebody that's entertained me, especially his wrestling personality when he was managing the Midnight Express and whenever he was on color commentary, like with Jim Ross and stuff like that, and that was great stuff. To me, him and Midnight Express were like, they're in lockstep. It's like if the Midnight Express go in the Hall of Fame next year, because of Jim Cornette inducting the Rock and Roll Express this year. I think that Jim Cornette needs to go in there with them because without Midnight Express, there's no Jim Cornette. Pretty much same pretty much the same thing. Without Midnight Express, there's no Jim Cornette. Yeah, they've separated since, and they've had all their great success. And Bobby Eaton in particular was a great singles wrestler in WCW for a number of years. But the reason I like Jim Cornette is because he's outspoken. I want to make it clear, I'm not saying I agree with all the stuff he said about Russo. He's got his own opinions on Vince Russo. Those are his opinions. He can stick to them if he wants. However he feels, that's his business. I did a video on Jim Cornette about his Lucha Underground comments from, I want to say, about a year and a half ago, and how I didn't agree necessarily with them. I've kind of turned around a little bit on that because I see what Jim Cornette's talking about with Lucha Underground. But he's more traditional. So I'm not saying I agree with every bit of what he says when it comes to, the wrestling business and everything. I respect certainly what he says, at least the vast majority of it, even if he's kind of stuck in his ways and maybe can't modernize necessarily. I appreciate what he did for the business. And yeah, I appreciate some of his shoot interviews. Sometimes I'm like, okay, wait, that's a little far. Oh, I may not agree with that, but it's part of the fun. It's like there are plenty of people whose YouTube channels I'm subscribed to, fellow wrestling fans like myself, where I don't always agree with everything they say, but that's part of the fun. What I like about Jim Cornette is just the outspokenness, the fact that he gave years of service to the business, still makes appearances and stuff like that. And like his appearance at the WWE Hall of Fame was fantastic. It was great stuff. It opened with a classic Cornette line. It was great. But like his commentary in WWE was even good. When he had Camp Cornette and Owen, Yoko, and Bulldog, that was great. That was great stuff. He certainly seemed like he was having fun with that. And then he was taken off TV and was on the creative team for a bit. And then he was part of Ohio Valley Wrestling. And even before that, he had Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which, yes, I admit, maybe I wasn't the biggest fan of Smoky Mountain Wrestling when I look at it, say an episode from 1993 or whatever without any backstory. So I might actually watch all the Smoky Mountain Wrestlings once they put them all on the network, if they haven't already. I haven't actually checked that for a bit. And maybe watch them bit by bit and give reviews and stuff like that. I hope you guys would enjoy those. It would be a nice little history of the little territory that could. But I just always enjoyed Jim Cornette's commentary, his, the fact that he was so great with a wit and he was easily disliked. And him and Midnight were just great. They could, whether the Midnight Express lost, whether they won, their feuds with the Fantastics, their feuds with the Rock and Roll Express, just great stuff. Jim Cornette and Paul E. having their feud or whatever, I believe it was Great American Bash 89, as I recall. I get why some people don't like Jim Cornette. I get that. But I personally have always, I don't go out of my way to see stuff that he said or listen to stuff he said. But if somebody sends me something, I'll watch it. I don't have a lot of time to watch a ton of videos because I got a few people whose YouTube channels I'm subscribed to that I like to watch their content. I also work. I'm also shooting my own videos and stuff like that. But yes, I've always enjoyed Jim Cornette's work. I've enjoyed his work from, looking back on it. I don't remember being exposed to any of his stuff until the very late 80s. Because, I was born in 81, so obviously I didn't get a chance to really appreciate him Except looking back on it, but I do remember thinking, I was like, this guy's a bad guy. I want to see him get beat up. And that was part of what was great about Jim. Sure, his outspokenness can kind of alienate him from people, but he's always been somebody that I've enjoyed, for better or worse. Whether I agree, disagree on everything, he's got his own ways of doing things. I kind of like when he was the authority figure and director of authority, I believe, in Impact Wrestling and TNA for like a little bit. That was fun. I was actually happy to see him because I was like, oh, cool. Okay, they're bringing a guy in that they haven't had here for a bit, and that was fun. And Jim, sure, okay, he has his opinions on guys like Joey Ryan, which, I mean, I throw my hands up and say Joey Ryan can do what he wants. That's his business. It's his life, not mine. He has his opinions on Owens and Zayn and various other people. And he also praises a lot of people. He gave guys like, Jericho, I got this Jericho shirt here, Jericho and Lance Storm, the Thrill Seekers. He gave them a start. He does appreciate really good talent. He loves the Revival, as many should, quite frankly, with how great the Revival is. Sure, he probably can't modernize himself necessarily. He's one of those old timers and stuff like that, and there's just people that are like that. But I enjoy Jim Cornette's work. I respect Jim Cornette, even if I don't always agree with him. He's enjoyable to me. Again, I'm putting aside the thing with Russo because that's his business, his personal feud. That's something I'm just going to stay away from because, quite frankly, I don't. I've heard a few shoot interviews on it, but it's like you're always going to hear his side, Russo's side, and then somewhere in the middle is the truth. I'm just saying. So I'm going to stay away from that. But Jim Cornette's always been entertaining to me, and I hope that soon he will be in the WWE Hall of Fame. But for somebody that always enjoys outspokenness, I can respect Jim Cornette for that, even if I don't agree. So anyway, that's what I gotta say. So that's my little 7-minute video on Unpopular Wrestling Opinion, why I like Jim Cornette. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Like, share, comment, subscribe. My Twitter link in the description. It's been Real Honesty with John Ritlin. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.